But friends reunited on is really the obviously topic of the week, and the possibility that Mauricio Pochettino might go back to Tottenham.
I like what you did there.
See what's happening? You can't literally turn on any media at the minute without talk of it. But it's and also about friends getting back together. It's on all the back of a lot of the papers this morning. There's loads of stuff about, like, here's one that I'll just pluck out of the randomness there from Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian, who says unfinished business, Tottenham hold talks with Pochettino over shock return. I mean, shock return is, to put it mildly, don't do it, Poch, is my advice this morning. Please don't do this. You are a cut above Tottenham Hotspur. You're at a club that has every possibility of winning the Champions League next season. You're at a club with huge ambition. You've been linked to clubs like Real Madrid. Tottenham at the minute are the butt of every football joke. They're a punchline. So I urge you, don't do this. They're a basket case of a club. Their spending on is, having had a look at it yesterday evening, 17th net spending, 17th in the Premier League, which and they're 7th. I mean, they've done the most Tottenham thing of all time this season by qualifying for the Conference League or whatever it is. They've qualified by finishing 7th. Harry Kane potentially on his way out. If you're somebody like Son, you're thinking same direction. Is Gareth Bale going to hang around? Dele Alli obviously out of form. I know I've made the point in this show not that long ago that actually they would be a great club to get in and give them a bit of a lift. I'd still stand by that. Like, they finished 7th, and surely the only way is up. Surely they're going to get a bit of investment. But that's not for Pochettino. That's for Rafa Benitez or Tony Pulis or Sam Allardyce. Not for Poch.
Do you actually think Rafa will go to Spurs? Or do you think Spurs will go for Rafa?
Look, honestly, has to be an element to Tottenham. I honestly can't believe that people are taking these reports seriously. Mauricio Pochettino is going to get himself a gig. He's already at one of the top clubs in Europe. That's going to be his level for the next while until he starts to Jose-style peter out of the game. That's not Tottenham's level. Like, they're not fishing in that. Links this morning on with Antonio Conte and Zinedine Zidane. I mean, have you ever heard such rubbish?
It's a bit of a stretch to suggest that either of those two will go to Tottenham for sure. Pochettino, though, there is a connection there. It goes beyond the point of where you are in the Premier League. There is a history there. There is a situation where Mauricio Pochettino has been living in a hotel room in Paris. One of his sons and his wife are both living in London. He might want to be reunited with them, and he may want to be reunited with Tottenham Hotspur. He maybe feels that that's where his heart is when it comes to the height of his managerial career. So I can see why he might want to do it. But if you're looking at it in the cold light of day, is this a good career move for Pochettino? Probably not. Staying at Paris Saint-Germain, or if he can manage to get his foot in the door at Real Madrid, both of those jobs you would suspect would be better short-term options. You can go back to Spurs in a year or two if things go down the drain from your career. I think that's something that's been overlooked, is that Tottenham Hotspur, no matter what happens next, aren't guaranteed to suddenly race out of view and race out of the crosshairs of Mauricio Pochettino from a career standpoint. The reunion can happen at a later date. I think right now, I think I'm with you on this, that Pochettino going back doesn't make sense from his perspective. It makes great sense from Tottenham's perspective. Don't get me wrong. I think this would be brilliant, and it would tick every box to get him back in there. And it might just persuade Harry Kane to stay. Maybe just persuade him to stay. So it ticks all the boxes from Spurs' point of view.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised, by the way, no matter who's there, that Harry Kane ends up staying. That, like, it's a bit of a ploy to squeeze a bit of extra money into his contract. I think that is highly likely. I know that obviously he's been linked with some other clubs, but
you think he'll sign a new contract?
He does feel like a Tottenham for life player,
right?
I mean, that only becomes true when we see it out, and it's a fairly pivotal moment for him in that if he signs a 2 or 3 year deal at Tottenham now, he'll be 30 by the time that wraps up, and that's probably him for life. But I wouldn't tie in, Mauricio Pochettino going to Tottenham as the be-all and end-all for Harry Kane. Like, Daniel Levy offering him more money will be the be-all and end-all for Harry Kane, and I think there's every possibility that he remains there. But yeah, I do what are Tottenham going to achieve over the next few years? I know they've obviously under Poch managed to get to a Champions League final and came up well short, obviously, on the night. But I just can't believe that a manager with the potential of Pochettino, he's been linked with the Madrid job this week. Like, why would you take a step? Like, and it's no insult to Tottenham to say that you're going to take a step so far down the ladder. They're not in the conversation within an arse's roar of winning the Premier League, for example. And by all accounts, given the level of spending that I mentioned just there isn't a chance of them getting anywhere near it over the next few years.
That last point notwithstanding, is that not the point of football management, to go into a club and actually improve them?
But I think, Owen, that's a Chelsea, let's say, or a Liverpool this season, or like even a Man United, in that like there's not much. A couple of players, if I could get a centre back in at United, if I could get a young fit centre forward, I can see how we might be able to tweak this thing. It's not tweaks at Tottenham.
But I think that's the appeal, isn't it? That you are going from a base of 7th, and your first step is to, I guess, qualify for the Champions League again in a couple of seasons' time. With Manchester United, Chelsea and Liverpool, the margins are much smaller. Their next step is to win a Premier League title. With Tottenham, that's not the case. So there is automatically less pressure on you. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here, because I actually kind of agree with you that this wouldn't make much sense from Pochettino's perspective. But that's kind of why you would go into a job like Tottenham. It is, in one way, exciting, because there's been a little bit of wreckage left behind by Jose Mourinho. And the fact that they finished 7th while still being in a little bit of in a state of chaos would suggest to me that their potential is much higher than 7th, that they do have a squad of players who can challenge for the top 4. And that must be seriously attractive to any manager who comes into the club, like a Rangnick or something who might come into the club. But for Maurizio Pochettino, who has to leave Paris Saint-Germain behind in order to get the job, I'm not sure it holds the same attraction.
Are they, forgetting for a second about the manager, whoever comes in, are they a top 4? Let's say everybody stays, right? Do they bring anybody? The spending suggests probably not anybody. It's going to make a huge impact on them, and everybody stays. Are they a top 4 club next season, regardless of the manager?
No, I don't think so. I think that the top 4 is this season's top 4 again. If I was to predict it. But then again, I think we often have these conversations at the end of one season, and everything just seems so clear. Like we can almost predict 1 to 20 next season. It always seems at the end, those teams are definitely going to get relegated, those teams are definitely going to make a push, and those teams are definitely going to challenge for the title. We're going to have a 4-horse race. Some years we've actually said we're going to have a 6-horse race for the Premier League title. It never materialises. Weird stuff always happens in a season. I can be sure that, because I've actually said there that this year's top 4 will be next year's top 4, that won't be the case, because I'm always wrong about these things. We're always wrong about these things. And somebody else will bolt towards that. Chances are it'll be Leicester City who breaks the mould next season, but I would not be surprised one bit if Tottenham Hotspur do it, especially if they manage to keep Harry Kane. If they keep Harry Kane, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, but it is hooked solely around Harry Kane. Like,
but your question was based on that. If they keep everybody, and if they keep everybody, that squad is good enough to challenge for the top 4 and just about break into it.
Don't do it, Poch. Please, think your career here. Think about your future prospects. Like Owen said, do Mourinho on it. He's going to go and manage Portugal at some point. Look at Tottenham like you're Portugal, and just leave it for a few years. Leave it until you're grey. Leave it until you've nothing left to offer the game and it's all been wrung from you. Do it at some point down the track, but just not now.